understanding the cultural elements that underpin why people come to this region. It's a very unique and very popular area and has iconic status in the sense of its early history from the explorers.
Some of the threats are and have always been the kind of impacts upon fragile places. In the research that we've been doing, we've been looking at both the quality of particular landscapes, the quality of the water, of the riparian zones and the areas around particular water places. We've been looking at the different types of water systems that are there. And so the threats really come from a variety of areas.
There's a lot of people moving through the country, there's stock moving in, there's stock moving out, there's miners moving in with big equipment coming in from all over the place, and it's really important that they sort of realise their role in protecting the landscape. In this dynamic system, it's dynamic for tourists as well. So for the last 4 years, there's been almost no tourist activity up here, or very little, because of the floods. Most of the roads have been closed for long periods of time. Kungi Track's only just opened a couple of months ago. And of course, when they come here, they want to camp right near the water. I mean, this is really where they want to go. And that puts all the pressure on this sort of linear development. Things like firewood. Everybody thinks, well, you're here, you can find firewood, but of course when the floods come through, they wash the firewood away. It's really difficult to find fallen timber out on the floodplain. It'll build up over the next sort of 5 or 10 years until the next flood, but it gets harvested as quickly as it falls.
In terms of local scale level management, like here, what national parks have done over the last 20 years, I first came here almost 30 years ago, and it was just a free-for-all camping, and over the years national parks have put in really good visitor management in terms of restricting road access to try and minimise erosion along the full frontage of Kalimara, so keep the vehicles to small areas and encourage walking. That way you can maximise the visitor experience and have more people camping here as opposed to higher impact activities. We don't know much about the regeneration capabilities of the key elements. If we look around here, we've got the lignum beds along the steep channel banks. We've got the coolabah and river red gum as the key tree species.
You manage the land to the boom and bust because you'll keep an eye on the country when it's in destock when you need to, restock when you can, which is you manage it to the best of the knowledge that you've got. The vegetation, of course, gets blown away by the wind because it's so dry. Cattle will go back and you try to get them off before that actually happens, when they're coming into main watering points and all that sort of thing. And Graham will be driving around all the time, keeping an eye on the vegetation.
Some of the stations and that, where you actually locate burial grounds, and we've actually talked to a couple of them and asked them if they'd be able to help us out and do fencing and stuff around some of the burials.
And there's some things like best practice and trying to manage the information we have in a better way.
The Cooper Creek and the catchment from the South Australian section has so much history and stories and beauty and aesthetic qualities alongside the natural qualities that it's really hard to try and encompass it. This idea of how people attach to place, networks and customary practices. And so the idea that water is both a resource but actually an economic resource and a use resource, but actually a cultural resource is really important. So there's these two layers of mapping.